Welcome, and thank you for clicking on this video. Welcome to a new series where I am modding the Squier Mini Precision bass to make it sound as good as I can get it. In episode number 1, I'm going to install a Seymour Duncan quarter pounder pickup in it. Will it make it a new bass? Let's find out. Now the original pickup, there's nothing wrong with it per se, but the way my fingers sound on this bass, with the tone knob at 50% and higher, I found the upper mid-range to be pretty harsh. And if you have the tone knob dimed and wide open, the highs are pretty cutting and can sound pretty abrasive depending on your amp setup and where you are playing. Certainly recording straight to the computer, I found the upper mids and the highs to be a bit on the abrasive side. Now I've kind of tinkered with pickup height and setup, and I think I have this bass playing as good as I can possibly get it from a playability point of view, but those kind of sharp upper mids were still there. So let's swap out the pickups. For today's experiment, we're going to use the quarter pounder pickups from Seymour Duncan. Now these pickups are advertised to have tons of lows, tons of highs, a bit of a scoop mid, but tons of output. Will a quarter pounder in this bass make it sound fuller? And more importantly, will it kind of tame the highs a bit and make it a little more pleasant to listen to? Let's find out. Let's first start by taking off the pickguard. Unfortunately, as is the case with a lot of entry-level and lower-end instruments, some of the finishing work in areas that you cannot see are often forgotten about and compromised. And that is true here. If you look at some of the finishing work around the pickup cavity, you see a lot of swirling marks, a lot of haziness likely from the buffing wheel. Now these are areas you don't typically see because it's covered by the pickguard, but it's still kind of sad to see that areas like this in the finish have just been forgotten about. Now after unscrewing the pickups, you will also notice in this photograph here that the shielding paint is starting to flake off. Now, first of all, I applaud Squier for actually attempting to shield this bass, but seeing shielding paint kind of flake off like this makes me a little nervous because the last thing you want is to have shielding paint get into your pickups. I think if I'm going to hold on to this bass, I would have to sand a lot of that off. Well, let's get to installing the Seymour Duncan SPB-3 quarter pound pickups into this bass. The wiring that came stock in this bass is okay, but some of the wires are a bit on the long side. So while I have the pickguard off here, I've also moved the bridge ground wire over to the tone pot. You don't have to do this. I just did this to keep it out of the way. Now, if you're wondering about the blue tape, the wood that is used for this bass body is pretty soft, much like the Squier Sonic Bronco that I had previously featured in a modding series. So I'm using painter's tape to hold the pickguard in place. Otherwise, by screwing and unscrewing this pickguard on and off several times to film the series, I'm most likely going to end up stripping those screw holes, which I very much want to avoid. So that's why I'm using the blue tape to hold the pickguard in place. So we're going to have a few passes to this track. We're going to compare it to the stock pickup with the tone knob at 25%, 50%, and then wide open at 100%. And this way you can hear the difference between the stock pickup and the Seymour Duncan quarter pounder. And to put things in sonic context, I'm also going to compare this to my full-scale P bass. It is a Fender Player series, but I've also I've upgraded the pickup to an Aguilar 4P60. It has a vintage style threaded saddle bridge, and I also changed the pickguard. As always, for the best sonic experience, I highly recommend the use of headphones or quality speakers. Today, we are recording all of the basses through the identical settings through my Line6 Pod Go straight into the computer. No added EQ or compression was added in post. Here we go. I hope you enjoyed that playing example. Please let me know what you thought of the tones by leaving a comment below. The Duncans were quite a bit warmer and rounder in the bottom end, and I think there are a lot more lows that are coming out of the Seymour Duncan. Interestingly, the highs seem much more rounded and much more pleasant to listen to. Surprisingly, in terms of sheer output, the stock pickup and a quarter pounders were pretty neck and neck in terms of pure output. Now, historically, quarter pounders have never really been my thing. My main criticism of these particular Seymour Duncan pickups is that it tends to make all basses kind of sound the same. And with the hot output, a bit of the scooped mids, and tons of lows, I felt it kind of robbed some of the nuances and dynamics of the instrument itself, and you heard more of the pickup than you did the bass. However, I think in the context of kind of a more entry-level, lower-end instrument, such as the Squier Mini P, that actually may be an advantage, because you might be masking some of the natural, more harsh and unpleasant frequencies that are inherent to this piece of wood. I hope you enjoyed this episode. I have lots of other pickups to feature in the Squier Mini P bass. Stay tuned. See you next time.